When people think of the Titanic, they usually think of tragedy. More than 1,500 lives were lost on a freezing April night in 1912, and countless families were forever changed by the disaster. But did you know hidden among those stories is one of the most remarkable survival stories, and it's connected to Missouri? It begins with two college students who met in Parkville, Missouri, fell in love, traveled halfway around the world, and unknowingly boarded the most famous ship in history. What happened next would place them in one of the most dangerous lifeboats launched from the Titanic, a lifeboat that nearly became a disaster of its own. This is the story of Albert, Sylvia, and baby Alden Caldwell, one of the very few families to survive the Titanic completely intact. This is Missouri Mayhem. I'm Megan.
And I'm Mindy. Thank you for tuning in for a unique episode today. As you heard, we are connecting our state of Missouri to the infamous Titanic tragedy. And I think this is going to be a really interesting episode, Megan.
Yay, I agree. This episode came along because I happened up on recently a documentary or a docudrama on Hulu called The Titanic Sinks Tonight. And I'm like, it was crazy. They highlighted like about 10 survivors and followed them through their path of getting on the boat, why they were on there, and then how they ultimately were able to survive.
And didn't you say it was like how long of a documentary was it?
It's like 6 or 7
Yeah,
episodes. It's
yeah,
it's really
really
good.
interesting.
Yes, and that got me thinking. I thought, "Okay, is there anyone that was on the Titanic from Missouri that
hmm
survived?" Well, Unsinkable Molly Brown, who a lot of people have heard of, who actually lived in Denver,
hmm
and you went to her house and
Yes.
when you lived out there, but she was born in Hannibal. So for those of you who don't know, she's technically a Missourian, but then as I'm looking and I see her, I come upon this whole family that was aboard the ship that came from Missouri. So that's
Oh,
how we came upon this. So,
yeah.
um, listeners out there, if you knew this story, let us know because that's cool. If
Yeah,
you didn't, we hope you enjoy it today. All right, here we go. We ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So, to understand how a Missouri family ended up aboard the Titanic, we have to go back several years before the actual disaster. So, Albert and Sylvia Caldwell, they met each other while attending college in Parkville, Missouri. And back then, the college was called Park College. And
Yes.
today we know it as Park University. And like many college romances, their friendship grew into something more. They both took religion very seriously. They both, in their hearts, wanted to help others and potentially do a mission. I think this grew them together as well. So after graduating in 1909,
Oh.
from Park College. That's my husband's alumni, Park University.
Hey,
They
my husband went there for 1 year too. So
Nice, there
hey.
you go. So technically he's they
1 year.
1 year. They graduate together in 1909 and they marry and they immediately decide they want to set out on an adventure that's gonna take them thousands of miles from Missouri.
Thousands of miles from Parkville.
That's right. From the center of the United
Yeah.
States. They decide very quickly that they are going to accept positions as Presbyterian missionaries, and they're going to be located in Bangkok, Siam. Now, today that's called Thailand, but back then it was called Siam, but it's modern day Thailand. So, for the next several years, Sylvia and Albert teach at the Bangkok Christian College for Boys in Bangkok, and they immerse themselves in their missionary work. And from what I can tell, research wise, those years went well. They were enjoying their time as missionaries. And then in June of 1911, their son, Alden, is born. So, yes, they're excited. They have a new baby, but they're also now in a foreign country with an infant.
Yes,
And
still in
still
Siam.
in Siam. And although they were enjoying their mission, life overseas had actually proved to be a little difficult. According to what I read, Sylvia's health took a severe toll while they were over there,
Mm.
specifically after childbirth. They tend to blame the tropical climate
For that?
for Sylvia's health problems.
Man, I think a tropical climate would make you feel better, right?
And that's what I thought too. I'm like, aren't we typically trying to move like to Florida and Texas here? But that's kind of what it said. It said
Okay.
as her condition worsened, Albert was very concerned that staying in Thailand, Siam, could put her life at risk.
Mhm.
Now, again, I don't know exactly what the issue was, but they are like, "We want to come home. We wanna go home to America."
Yeah.
Well, here's the problem is they were under a 7-year missionary contract, and at this point, they had only done a couple years out of their 7-year contract.
So they have a few more years to go.
Yeah, technically, I think they had, like, 5 more years to
Mhm.
fulfill their missionary contract, and I did look into this a little bit. The Presbyterian Missionary Board, they were not happy about this. They're like, "You have a contract with us,
Mhm.
you're and we are telling you right now, if you leave, we're opposing this. Like,
Yeah.
we don't believe this is right."
Okay.
Well, we're gonna get back to that a little bit later, but they decide it's worth the risk. We don't care that you don't want us to leave. We're leaving.
She's not healthy, we're
She's not
out.
healthy. We have this new baby. I think Albert was maybe panicking a little, like,
Mhm.
you know, what if something happens to my wife? So, anyways, rather than remain overseas, the Caldwells decided, you know what? We don't care what people say. We're going to pack our things up. They converted a lot of their savings that they'd been saving over there into $100 in American gold coins.
Ugh,
And they said, we're going to do the best we can. And
I
we're going
wonder
to,
what that's equal to today.
I don't know. That's $100 in American gold
Coins,
coins. Here,
alright.
I bet I can find out. Let me look really quickly.
Okay.
Okay. So, American, how much? $100.
$100 in 1912.
American gold. $100, 1912 today.
Yeah.
Okay, so today that would be
Oh,
today that'd be worth about $2,225.
okay, okay.
So yeah, that's I mean, they left, had a decent amount of, cash there to spend to try and get home. Again,
Mhm,
they don't have a plan, they're
mhm.
just setting out to try and get home as soon as they can. So they end up going from Siam to Europe. Okay, so Thailand to Europe, and then they go from Italy to France, and they arrive in Naples, and Naples is where they see an advertisement for a brand new ship preparing for its maiden voyage, and,
Uh.
I mean, they couldn't believe their luck. They're like,
Oh
"What?"
god.
I mean, the advertisements promise luxury, safety, and speed. So they're like, "This is now pretty looking like this might be what we want." They find out the ship is called the Titanic, and it's actually leaving from England, and it's gonna travel to New York.
So that's their ticket to New York.
Yeah, how can we get back home to America? The Titanic.
Mhm.
So, like many travelers, they were very intrigued. They set off for England in search of the Titanic. They get there. Okay, from what I've read, they get there in time to see one of the I don't know if it was called a sister ship, but the Carpathia.
Uh-huh.
They get to see it launch from the same port that the Titanic's going to launch from, and they're like, "Wow, this is amazing."
So the Carpathia launched first.
It launched not quite a day before the
Mhm.
Titanic, but, before, yes.
Okay.
So they're like, "Okay." So they find the ticket place for the Titanic. Can you imagine? It's like a movie. They kinda like Leonardo did. He went to the ticket place,
Yeah.
and so they try to purchase they want second-class tickets. They're like, "We can't afford first class." 3rd class, they're like, "Well, we want a little better than that." That's, we're
Gonna
gonna
go with second
yeah,
class.
we're gonna go with 2nd class. So he gets to the window and the guy's like, "Sorry, all sold out." Pretty much everything sold out.
Mhm.
Like, you can't even standing room. Well, the ticket man sees how distraught Mr. Caldwell is. He's
Mhm.
like, "We've got to get home. This was like our chance. This is perfect." So the guy says, "Okay, come back in the morning, few hours before the boat's set to launch. I bet we'll have a last minute cancellation. And then hopefully you can get those
Take their
tickets."
spot.
Well, I'm sure Albert Caldwell thought, what are the chances?
Right.
But he's like, I'm going to go the next morning and see. Well, lo and behold, what's his luck?
Well, you
Or
know whose luck it was.
unlucky. Whoever canceled their tickets
Yeah.
was lucky. Well, lo and behold, he gets there, it works, and not only do they get tickets, they're second
Class,
class
nice.
tickets, exactly what they wanted. Okay, so second class passage to America's booked. This seems like they think the perfect way to complete their journey home. Of course, Sylvia and Albert and little baby Alden have no way of knowing that they are about to board a ship that would become of the most infamous disasters in human history.
History,
Yes, they
yes.
have no clue that their names will be forever cemented in the history books. Okay, so here we go.
All right.
They've aborted,
They
got
boarded.
on board. Yes, they got on board the Titanic
Mhm.
on April 10th, 1912.
Mhm.
And the Titanic departs from Southampton, England, and is starting its maiden voyage to New York City. At more than 882 feet long, she was considered at her time the largest passenger ship in the world. As we know, newspapers celebrated her engineering. Passengers marveled at her size. Many believe she was the future of ocean travel. And among those thousands of passengers, again, on board were the Caldwells, Albert, Sylvia, and 10-month-old Alden. 10-month-old. And for several days, they have a voyage that's pretty much without incident.
Mhm.
Okay. In fact, I wanted to know like those few days, those couple days they were on the boat
Yeah.
before they had the terrible crash with the iceberg, what would have their days been
Looked
like
like a
as
second
second class
class
passengers? So here, this is not exact, but this is approximately a version of what their day
day
may have
look like.
looked like.
Okay, this
Okay.
is interesting.
So, okay, after boarding at Southampton, the Caldwells probably settled into their second class accommodations, where the rhythm of the voyage just started to take shape. The mornings were probably quiet, with Sylvia caring for 10-month-old Alden, while Albert, was adjusting to life aboard this giant moving object, something I'm sure they'd never seen or been on before. Meals would have been shared in what's called the second class dining saloon, where passengers gathered at assigned tables and they would eat together. And they honestly probably thought this feels more like a hotel
Yeah.
on the water, than a ship. Between meals, they're going through other familiar routines. They might go to the library to sit and read. They might start writing letters home. And they were probably walking the open promenade deck or just watching the Atlantic Ocean.
I think people spent a lot of hours writing letters back in the day.
They did. I
Yeah.
think so too, a lot, which is cool.
I think it's really
Yeah.
cool.
Now, for the Caldwells, there may have also been a quieter, more personal layer to those days. Again, they're leaving behind years of missionary work in Siam, returning home because of Sylvia's declining health. And honestly, they weren't sure when they got back to America what came next for them.
Oh,
And
boy.
yeah, like we're heading back here, and we literally have like two thousand
Excuse me.
dollars to our name or
Mhm.
$100 to our name.
Mhm.
They also didn't know what the repercussions were going to be of them leaving, even though the
Right.
missionary board didn't want them to leave.
They had 5 years left.
They're also worrying about that.
Okay.
And through it all, nothing about their first couple days on the ship itself would have made them think they were in danger at
No.
all. In fact, from what I've read and heard, these people very much had a all-encompassing feeling of security.
Yeah. Well, it was the
The
unsinkable.
unsinkable, it's been named Titanic, Titan. It's
Titanic.
a myth, it's a warrior,
Yeah.
it's not gonna yeah. So, the sea, again, was calm, the weather was mild, and the ship was moving forward, and again, people had no idea.
Yeah.
To the passengers aboard, families like the Caldwells, it felt like the beginning of an amazing journey home,
Mhm.
not the potential beginning
A
of a
terrible disaster.
disaster that 100 and almost 50 years later, we're still talking about,
Gosh.
Here we go. Okay, the night that changes everything. This is the night the Titanic will sink.
Okay.
The night of April 14th, shortly after midnight, Titanic struck an iceberg in the North Atlantic. And at first, actually for quite some time, because there's about a 2 hour and 15-minute period from when it strikes the iceberg to when it sinks. And for
Completely sinks.
yes, and for quite a bit of that time, most people had no clue what was really happening
Yeah.
on board, okay? The
And
collision
they said the captain and the crew kinda made it seem that way, correct?
correct. Yes, yes, because at first, even to those on board, on board, like the deck close to where the iceberg was, they thought the collision was minor. if anything.
Like something that they could just repair and we'd
Correct.
move on.
Because even the ship employees, the deck crew, they thought that initially they had missed the iceberg
Oh,
because the main bulk of the sound was heard in the hole in the bottom where the men filling the coal for the
yeah.
engines because it was down low. Because what they didn't understand, they knew they had missed the giant iceberg on top of the water.
Mhm.
I mean, within inches.
Uh-huh.
They did not realize that the iceberg had the hidden shelf underneath the
It just
water that was sticking out, and that's
like a blade.
yes, and that is what started ripping, and yes, not in a good place, we're gonna
No.
find out.
Okay.
So while the crew and passengers initially for quite some time, they think everything's okay, that "Phew, that was a close call," or some didn't even know anything happened.
Right.
And again, it all depended on where you were located on the ship if you heard the impact and what you heard. Because if you're in first class and you're up in one of these luxurious things, you probably didn't even hear
And
anything.
think about it. It's midnight. Everybody's
Sleep.
asleep.
Everybody is in bed unless they're working. A lot of people
So a
work
lot of people went through this whole horrific event in their pajamas.
1000%. They came, I
It
mean,
was so cold in the first place, and then you're in
yes.
pajamas.
Yes. And the bulk of them, depending on again, the first class passengers were told, "You probably wanna get up and get dressed." But the third class passengers, and a lot of those were the workers on the ship, they weren't told anything except, "Everything's good, stay in your room."
That's
So,
awful.
yeah, it's terrible. So, again, a lot of disproportionate
Mhm.
directions, who got
Mhm.
information first,
Mhm.
all based on what class you were in. So, okay, the crew, the passengers initially think all is well. But Captain Smith, the captain of this boat, is quickly realizing that the Titanic's probably in big trouble. The Titanic is going to possibly go down because, again, the first person to realize something is wrong is one of the workers down in one of the boiler rooms filling the fires,
Mhm.
stoking the
Mm.
fires.
Yeah.
He gets the red light goes off, basically saying, "Close all shut down all the fires," meaning
Mhm.
we need to slow this ship down.
Yeah.
So get these cut off the fires.
Mhm.
So when they do that and they shut those chamber doors, the steam comes out of those big pipes on top of the ship,
Yeah.
those giant
Mhm.
cylinders, makes this of, like, steam coming out. Shh, but it's, like, 10,000 times louder than that.
Yeah.
That is what signals to a lot of people, what's going on?
Okay.
What is that loud sound? And that signals to the boiler room, "Okay, they've wanted us to shut these down.
Mhm.
That's not normal." Also around that time, the boiler room starts filling up with water, and these are the first people that realize, "We've hit something, water's coming
This
in."
is not good.
So they block off boiler room number 6. Well, you figure he's in the bottom hole of the boat, captain's up top.
Mhm.
He's gotta get a message
To
to
the
him.
captain.
Yes, somehow, and there's no intercom, texting,
Right.
email. They
Right.
didn't even have, like, an intercom system to, like
For emergencies.
yes. So he's having to find a way to get up and get this information to Captain Smith.
Uh-huh.
Well, once Captain Smith hears that water's coming in boiler room number 6, he
Mhm.
knows the ship is possibly doomed.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, because below, seawater not only has started flooding into room or boiler room number 6, but it's overflowing into other compartments as well. Now, in an attempt to keep chaos from breaking out, Captain Smith makes a choice that I think in the end he probably severely regrets.
Yeah.
He makes a choice to only tell select crew members about the severity of the crisis,
Why
of
would
what's
you do
actually.
that?
He is worried that I think he was worried that people were going to freak out, mass chaos.
It's better than dying
I think he thought at this point they might be able to get enough help to come and rescue
and get it
everyone.
taken care
Yes,
of.
the boat may be sinking, but
I'm sure he had really good intentions.
I think initially he's like, "Okay, I think I can still get maybe everybody off the boat.
Yeah, somehow.
Someone's gonna come rescue us before
Sure.
this thing sinks." Now, it is said that again, he did tell some of the crew members, and according to that documentary I watched, John Jacob Astor, who was one of the richest men on board,
Mhm.
had a conversation with Captain Smith and said, "If your wife was on board right now, what would you want her to do?" 'cause I
Oh,
can
he
tell.
did?
Yes, he knew he went up to Captain, he said, "We know something's going on. What is happening? And if your wife was down sleeping in her cabin
What
right
would
now,
you do?
what would you do?" And he said, "I'd go tell her to get dressed and come up on deck."
Oh, boy.
Yes. So,
'Cause she was pregnant.
was she
John Jacob
okay,
Astor's wife? I think
was
so.
she pregnant?
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, that's a very interesting story too, that whole
Mhm.
story. But, so according to, again, that show, he went down, told his wife to come up. When people saw that John Jacob Astor was waking his wife, they knew it was serious.
If he's doing it,
Yes,
we probably
we
need to get
probably
it.
should too. So then the trickle effect then is the high profile first class people are aware of this before second and third class
Sure.
for quite some time.
That's
And
awful.
yeah. And at around this time, Captain Smith decided, we probably should start loading some lifeboats because we're going to have to get off this ship and we need to call for help from any nearby ships. That's what we need to do.
Yeah.
Okay. So on April 14th, again, the Titanic is slipping deeper into the North Atlantic. We're getting into the morning of the 15th and the crew's running out of time. And they're like, okay, we know there's an issue. We know we need to do something. Now, in this era of this time frame, the early 1900s, there are only two ways to really signal for help
Okay.
and that you need a rescue at sea. One is your wireless um, telegraph that
Mhm.
they have in the boat down low. And they can send Morse code messages through a radio operator, which they do. We'll talk about that in a minute. The
Mhm.
other was a visual distress rocket that they could fire into the sky, hoping that a ship would see and
Gosh, just hoping someone would see that.
yes. They also had like reflector mirrors
Mhm.
that they were trying to shine on the boat, like
Yeah.
Morse code that way.
Yeah.
Didn't have a lot of success with that either, I don't think. But the two ways they're like, okay, I think we can have some success are the flares and the Morse code. So they are like, okay, we're going to try both of these methods, but the two methods have drastically different results. Okay.
Mhm.
So this is crazy, this part of the story, too. It's just like this poor Titanic had everything going against it
Yeah.
tonight. Not far away. In fact, from what I looked, anywhere from 10 to 19 miles away from the Titanic, the SS Californian, another boat, has also stopped because
It
of,
was only 10 to 19 miles
yes.
away?
In fact, I read 14
Oh
somewhere.
my gosh, that's nothing.
Nothing. In nautical miles, that's
No.
nothing. They had stopped because of the same ice field. They had hit this ice field too and decided we're not going to try and go through it. And so they had stopped for the night. Same ice field that the iceberg that hit the
Okay.
Titanic. Okay. Now, this is, again, they're close enough that under any normal circumstance, like daytime, I don't know, really, this ship should have been the first to arrive for help.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay. Now, earlier in the evening, this is traumatic too. The Californian, according to research, supposedly had actually tried to warn the Titanic about the ice
After they went through it?
when they saw it, but the message was brushed off as the Titanic's wireless operators were busy handling passenger communications. So they're like, we're unsinkable. Okay, there's
We're
ice.
just gonna take care of our
Yeah,
passengers.
we knew there'd be ice, but we're trying to send communications for our passengers.
Mhm.
So shortly before midnight, the Californian's lone radio operator goes off duty.
Right about the time they hit the iceberg?
Right about the time they hit him.
Oh,
And
why did he go off duty?
according to research again, that was normal back then. They were not required or
'Cause,
mandated.
I mean, let's face it, this doesn't happen every day.
No, and they had to get sleep too.
Sure.
That boat may have only had one wireless operator. The Titanic had two,
Mhm.
but he had gone to bed, and that was a normal thing. They said in the end, this guy was never blamed for anything
Right?
because that was normal. Again, this leaves the ship cut off from any wireless communication that the Titanic is trying to send because he's in bed. Okay, now later they're realizing no one is answering from the Californian. So they start firing distress rockets into the sky. And Crew members on the California see them. They
Uh-huh.
see these rockets and they go and they wake up their captain, Stanley Lord was his name. They wake up Stanley Lord and say, "We see rockets coming from another ship." But guess what color the rockets were?
What?
They weren't the color of distress, which is red.
What do they think they're for? Celebration?
Seriously, the rockets were white, not the standard red distress color.
Well, what does the white mean?
Right. Good question.
What were
High?
they even in there?
I mean, white flags surrendering? What do you think they're
Oh
surrendering
my
to? Yeah,
gosh.
according to reports, Stanley Lord said, "You know what? That's not the distress signal." And they thought they're like, okay, they believed they had been company signals, non-emergency flares. They're like, this is not, they just, yeah. And the decision was made by Captain Lord to not wake the wireless operator and investigate any
Mother
further.
trucker.
And they could have saved hundreds, maybe thousands of
And they're
people.
just 14 miles away.
Yes, which would have
And
taken,
so you would have seen that flare really good.
oh, for
That
sure.
close.
Yes. And they,
And how many flares do you think they set off?
several,
Okay, so there's a problem.
yes.
We need to get to them.
Yes. There's
They
something going on
They
over
can't
there.
find the red ones.
Right. It's midnight. Why else would they be doing, and it's not 4th of July.
They're not celebrating.
No.
This is not good. Oh,
No.
man.
Yeah, it's very, very sad to think, I mean, the amount of people they could have saved.
Gosh.
Now, they didn't get the signal and help out, but there is another nearby ship that actually gets some of Titanic's distress signals. Okay. And out in the Atlantic, the RMS Carpathia is 60 miles away. So we have the Californian was 14 miles, would have taken them
Ugh.
maybe an hour. Now we have the Carpathia, which had left, that day before,
Mhm.
had left the same port. And its wireless operator, Harold Cottam, unexpectedly caught Titanic's distress signal at around 12:15 a.m. So he happened to be in the operating room. And without hesitation, Harold from the Carpathia says, Captain Arthur Rostron, we got a problem.
Yeah.
Something's happening at the Titanic.
Mhm.
It says, come at once. We need help.
Mhm.
Iceberg hit.
Mhm.
What followed is an immediate full speed response from the Carpathia. They responded like they should have.
Yes.
But again, they're
So what's
64.
that several hours away? 4 hours away.
And as I've told you at the beginning, in about less than two and a
Two and a
half
half.
hours,
So by the time they get there, it is done.
yes, we will get back.
Talked about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So Captain Ronstron orders his ship to turn around the Carpathia. He shuts down the heating and the hot water systems to redirect every ounce of power to the engines. And they push Carpathia far beyond its normal operating limits as it races into the ice field to the Titanic. In the meantime, back on board of the Titanic, crew members now have decided we're going to start loading lifeboats. But things get confusing, and confusion and panic spread fairly quickly. Many passengers, number one, at this time, most people on board trying to get in these lifeboats are first and second class passengers.
Yeah.
At this point, the third class and the crew have pretty much still been told, stay in
Everything's
your
fine.
yeah, stay in your cabin. Even though they can hear people above them running, they can hear noises. They're like, why are we being told to
Ugh,
stay down
that's
here?
terrible.
Many passengers hesitate to leave. These first and second class passengers, number one, they still don't know for sure this boat's sinking.
Right.
They're like, why would we leave the comfort of this boat that seems okay right now
To get into a little boat.
and get in this cold water? Many also would not break up their families. And there was one crew member up here loading boats that was only allowing women and children to get in the boats, no men. And he was breaking families up. And again, not on purpose. And they talk about this a lot in that documentary. This was a time where women weren't considered as strong as men. Women and children needed men to help them.
Yeah.
And needed them, women first.
Yeah.
And it was the era still of chivalry.
Mhm.
And that's what he had got. They said that somewhere along the line, the message of women and children first had come from Captain.
Okay.
He took it literally, and he wasn't gonna budge from it,
Right.
this guy. So there were women and children that would
Oh.
not leave their husbands. They're like, "Oh, I'm not gonna get in this boat without you." Like,
Yeah.
no. And others were just struggling to understand what was happening because, again, no clear information is being passed on. Like, why are we getting in these
This just sounds
lifeboats?
like utter
Chaos.
chaos
Now,
without any instructions.
of any kind, yes. And it's cold. And again, moments before this, they thought they were on something that was
So
unsinkable.
safe.
The Caldwell family, again, they're in the second class accommodations. They soon hear the commotion and decide they better go up on deck too. And they find themselves making their way toward one of the final lifeboats that ends up being loaded from what's considered the starboard side of the vessel. And I don't know a lot about that, but it's
Yeah.
the starboard side. And this boat was called Lifeboat 13 because what we'll find out, I believe there were 14 lifeboats total, and there were 2 collapsible lifeboats that they never got people in,
Mhm.
but people were able to get in. It had fallen, and they were able to get in it
After the
after the
sunk?
fact.
Oh
Yes.
my gosh.
Yes. And a lot of those were crew members that happened to men that were in good
Mhm.
shape and were able
Okay.
to swim until that they get in Lifeboat 13. And it would become the site of one of the most dramatic and most important moments, well, of course, of the Caldwells' life
Yeah.
ever, also of this entire disaster. The officer manning the lifeboats on this side of the ship was actually letting families stay together. He would say women and children, and if they were like, "Well, this is my husband."
Please let him
"Okay,
go.
get in.
Yeah.
Get in." And that meant that they had picked the right boat to
Oh
get
my
into, or
goodness.
Albert may have not been allowed to get in with Sylvia and
Yeah.
Alden.
Yeah.
And again, they were lucky. This is one reason they're one of very few complete families
That made it.
that made it off the Titanic.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. At approximately 1:40 a.m., Alden, Sylvia, Albert, Lifeboat 13 was lowered from the starboard aft side of Titanic under the supervision of First Officer William Murdoch. And unlike many earlier lifeboats that departed half empty, this boat, Lifeboat 13, was heavily loaded
Okay.
because we're talking about this is one of the last lifeboats
Yeah.
to get off this ship. Some place the number of occupants between 60 and 70, and these boats were meant to hold max 40
That
people.
one boat would hold
These were big. These were big. People don't realize these boats were meant to hold 40 people
okay.
each.
You
And
don't realize that.
no, you're
It looks
thinking
like a 15 passenger boat.
yes, and
15.
a lot of them did go down with
Mhm.
only 20, and 40 people coulda got
Oh,
in.
wow.
Isn't that a ton? Like, the initial first 5 or 6 boats that went down were, like, halfway full. Yeah,
Gosh.
because people wouldn't get in, and they were it's terrible,
Wasting time.
terrible. Okay, again, many of these people in this last lifeboat were 2nd and 3rd class passengers because it's one of the last lifeboats, and among them were the Caldwells. Also among them, a science teacher named Lawrence Beasley. He was also in Lifeboat 13. He would later write what was considered one of the most famous firsthand accounts of the disaster. And he wrote it within like a year and published it very quickly
Oh,
of his
after it happened?
yes, about his experience. In addition, was also 12-year-old Ruth Becker, a 12-year-old girl by herself. And as the boat was being loaded, Sylvia was assisted. Baby Alden was passed into waiting hands below, and from what was recorded as the boat starting to lower, that's when Albert hops on. He's able to hop on the boat.
Like, kinda last minute?
It kinda said, like, okay, he's getting in as it's being lowered. Yeah, kinda makes it sound that way, okay? So, for the family, can you imagine,
No.
like, oh my gosh, after you've watched I'm sure they watched families be torn apart.
Yes. Fact that we're together.
Yes, we have a place in a boat. We are maybe going to escape the sinking ship because at this point, when they're down to loading the last few lifeboats, people now are aware something's very wrong because one side of the boat is now starting to weigh down, the other is tipping up.
It's
It's
cracking.
cracking. It's getting right. It's what the side that they're trying to do the lifeboats on is tipping up.
Oh
The
my.
angle is now to where people are having to hold on
Yeah.
to things to not fall down. So the fact that they got on this boat, they're like, surely the worst is behind us. Oh my gosh, we can't even
Yeah.
imagine. But it's not. In reality, they're getting ready to experience another close call,
Oh,
maybe
no.
even closer than the Titanic. The moment Lifeboat 13 reaches the water down below, a new emergency starts to unfold. A massive stream of water from the Titanic's condenser exhaust starts pouring directly onto the lifeboat. So, this is hundreds of feet in the air. This giant condenser exhaust tube now is letting out thousands, hundreds of pounds of
That's
water,
spraying into
and it's
their
pouring into their lifeboat as they're sitting
oh my
below. They're
gosh.
thinking, what the heck? The force was powerful enough. It pushes the boat against the side of the ship and drags it backwards beneath the hull of the Titanic.
Oh my gosh.
And they're now directly underneath the other lifeboats that are coming down to drop into the water. And their lifeboat, it says the passengers were trying to get the boat free. There are ropes that still have it attached up above. They're trying to get those taken care of. Again,
Oh
they've
my
got
god.
20 or 30 more people in there. They should. They're trying to locate the release mechanisms for the ropes, and they can't find them. And then somebody looks up, and there is Lifeboat 15 right above them,
Like getting ready to drop on him?
getting ready to drop on this. The crew above could not see Lifeboat 13 trapped in the darkness and the water
Oh
below.
gosh.
Passengers immediately realize we're in danger, and if Lifeboat 15 keeps coming down, it's going to crush everybody.
Oh.
So panic erupts. Men and women are screaming. They're shouting, "Stop,
No,
drop
yeah.
the boat." But again, nobody can hear anything. It's loud, the shh of the steam
Oh
still.
my.
Everything's being drowned out. So the boat starting to descend, it's coming closer and closer. Witnesses later described seeing the bottom of Lifeboat 15 approaching their heads. Here it comes.
Oh my
We've
gosh.
saved ourselves or got
I'm
somehow.
getting ready to get crushed to death.
For many moments they're like, this is unavoidable. I mean, can you imagine?
No, I
You
mean, you just survived the sinking of the Titanic.
and you're going to be crushed by a lifeboat.
So,
I
I
mean, what a
know.
terrible tragic ending to this tragedy
I
anyways.
can't believe I've never heard of this story.
I know, same. At the very last moment, the leading stoker, one of the guys who'd been down in boiler room 6
Mhm.
and knew pretty quickly from the beginning that this was a bad deal when the iceberg hit,
Yeah,
him and another crew member, they grab their pocket knives, good old pocket knives, and they start cutting the ropes.
and saved them.
Every second mattered. Lifeboat 15 is descending, and at the last moment, I mean, just like it sounds like you think in a movie,
Oh my
they were
gosh.
able to free the ropes. Their lifeboat was freed from the ship, and right away, just because of the water,
Yeah.
everything happening, their boat was swept clear by rushing water, and within, they said, seconds, Lifeboat 15 splashed into the ocean exactly where their lifeboat
I
had been.
wonder if Lifeboat 15, the people on it even knew there were
No,
people underneath them they were getting ready to
they
smash.
said it was so loud, so noisy, and they were so far up.
Screaming and
Yes.
steam and,
Yes. Had the ropes held even slightly longer, moments longer, dozens of passengers, including our Caldwell family, probably would have died or been knocked into the water and froze.
to really make you put things into perspective.
Seriously, they have they have avoided death
Oh,
twice,
wow.
and instead, they are drifted safely away into the darkness. Now, that's not it, of course, because once they're clear of the Titanic, those aboard Lifeboat 13, yes, they're rowing away. They're thinking, oh my gosh, we've made it. But I mean, it's still the middle of the night.
And it's freezing.
The water is -2 degrees. We are in the middle of the Atlantic, and they don't know if anyone's coming to help. They don't know if those messages got
No,
out. They
no.
have no idea. Now, most of the men were in the boat, were assigned to that were in the boat were cooks and stokers, like from third
Yeah.
class passengers. And a lot of them had never rowed anything in their life. Some of them couldn't speak English.
Mhm.
But Fred Barrett, again, the leading stoker, who knew pretty quickly from the beginning, he takes charge. And I think in that show I watched, they highlight him. And as the lifeboat moves farther into the Atlantic, these lifeboats that did make it off with these few passengers, they can hear every scream. They can
Yeah.
hear every sound from the boat. And there are still over 1,000 passengers on board and no lifeboats
That's a
left.
lot of
That's a
people.
lot of people that are there realizing that in the same moment, and this is going down, and there is no one to help us. And the Caldwells are sitting in a lifeboat
Just watching it.
and listening
Wow.
to the screams. The lights were still visible as they're sailing away. They can still see the lights on the top of the
Uh-huh.
Titanic, and they had to watch as it slipped
Ugh.
under the ocean, officially being consumed at around 2:20 a.m.
Completely gone.
Completely gone. And the sounds that followed these haunted survivors affected them the rest of their life. The screams, knowing some of their family members were still on board that
Mhm.
didn't get off with
Yeah.
them.
My husband's on that ship.
Yes. Within minutes, it went from screams to silence.
Ugh.
Hours later, as dawn broke over the Atlantic, the rescue ship Carpathia finally arrives. Against all odds, the distress signals had worked and the calls for help had worked. By finally 4 a.m., roughly an hour and 45 minutes after the Titanic had already slipped, slipped beneath the surface, the Carpathia arrives at the scene and starts pulling survivors from the lifeboats. What's even more, I think, that's even sadder, number one, is again, a lot of these lifeboats were half full. And majority of these lifeboats in that hour and a half before the Carpathia arrived refused to go back and see if they could help anybody that was in the water.
Because they were afraid of being mauled.
They were afraid of being mauled. They were afraid of them tipping the boat
Yeah.
over. Only two, from what I've read, 2 or 3 out of like the 15 lifeboats
Went back.
Yeah, and helped people.
That's
Now,
awful.
yeah, awful. Again, in the end, the Californian, which is just miles away,
Absolutely failed them.
never responded
Completely
ever,
failed
and were
them.
never had to be held accountable. Again, how do you hold them accountable for that? But the Carpathia, again, much farther out, they end up coming, and they're the reason, again, that a lot of these people are able to tell their stories, 700
Yeah.
people around,
Yeah.
because if they hadn't, who knows, they'd have all froze to
Yeah,
death.
eventually, yeah.
I mean, who knows? The survivors, again, of Lifeboat 13 were finally saved. Now, after surviving one of history's greatest maritime disasters, the Caldwell family expected relief when they finally get to New York. They're like, we've made it back to America after
Right.
this horrific, something that started off amazing and
Just
ended
been
this way.
turned crazy, yes.
Well, they get one final surprise.
Oh, no.
Waiting at the dock.
Oh,
Can you believe
no.
this? This is waiting at the dock in New York is a representative from the Presbyterian
Oh,
Mission Board,
no.
the same organization that had opposed them leaving Thailand, Siam, and really didn't want them to go. So imagine you've survived the Titanic, you've survived Lifeboat 13, you spent hours adrift, and then you get here, and here's your disgruntled employer
Is he?
wanting to be mad at you.
Nuh-uh.
Well, excuse me. I'm sure that they were like,
Listen, dude.
okay,
Blah, blah, blah.
They
You
had-
don't even know.
no, they had to put things in perspective
Yeah.
here. And again, this is one of the weirdest to me footnotes in the Titanic history due to the fact that they're like waiting there for them. I'd be like,
Were they waiting there for them because they were disappointed in them because they didn't do 7 years?
because
Is that what they were doing?
Because they owed them money. Because here's what happened. They did not fulfill their 7-year contract.
So they owed them money.
Yes, and they basically felt like the money they used to get home was their money because the mission would pay for you to go home at the
Their
end of your 7
experience on
years.
the Titanic.
Wasn't enough. Like, I mean, can that be that's our punishment? We took the Titanic. Sorry.
Yeah.
Like, we should not have left. You're right.
Right.
Well, again, due to the fame of the Titanic tragedy and obviously what they'd been through and and this was just horrific. The Caldwell's issue with the church is put on the back burner.
Okay, I would hope so.
Permanently.
Yeah,
And
forever.
nothing ever becomes of that. But
Yeah.
they were waiting for them there. Can you imagine? Wouldn't you feel like an asshole?
And they knew
And
what
if
they'd
it-
just been
yes,
through.
everyone knew at that point by the time they got back there. So anyway,
That
weird.
asshole moment.
Yeah. Now, the family, they do not make it back to Missouri. They end up settling in Illinois.
Fine.
So close. And I thought this was sad. Years later, Albert and Sylvia divorced.
What? Back in those days?
Yes, you made it. you get
You stay together forever
yeah,
because we're gonna talk about this every day for the rest of our lives.
right.
That's crazy.
Yeah. All three members of the family, according to research, lived long lives. Alden passed away in
And he was the
1992.
baby.
Yes, and he was in his 90s. Albert lived to be almost 91.
Yeah.
And again, their story is unique because they were one of just a few families that everybody made
The
it.
whole
The whole
family.
family, including the
Oh, what
husbands.
a night.
Yeah. Now, more than a century later, the Caldwell family remains one of Missouri's most remarkable connections to the
Can't believe
Titanic.
they got
I know,
divorced.
I know. And yeah, here they are missionaries,
Ah,
but maybe it just the stress of reliving that every day in your mind. They witnessed something horrific,
yeah.
hearing those screams of people and
Just took a
knowing
toll on their
yeah, I
lives.
mean, I don't know, maybe it was just something they
Yeah.
and their family members have written lots of books.
Yeah.
So if you're interested in this, if you type in Titanic, the Caldwell family,
Okay.
there's several books. Their story is still one of faith, determination, survival, and really, you guys, what it boils down to on the Titanic was luck.
It really
It
was.
really
It
was.
depended on where you went on that ship to get in a boat.
It determined from the point of how much money you had, what class passenger you were, where you were positioned on the boat, who told you the information, where you went to get on the lifeboat, where you were standing. I mean, awful that it was all just about a roll of the dice,
Yeah.
really. Had they chosen a different route home from Siam, they'd never gotten on the Titanic.
But then they would have owed all this money to the Presbyterian missionaries.
Maybe, or had they missed lifeboat 13, their story might have ended
Yeah.
differently.
Yeah.
Had those ropes not been cut. I mean, there's so many
Oh,
things
yeah.
where their survival and their legacy would have been affected. Instead, Albert, Sylvia, and baby Alden became one of the rare families who survived together. A Missouri story forever connected to one of history's greatest tragedies.
Yes. Well, guys, thank you for joining us for this episode of Missouri Mayhem. If you enjoyed today's story, be sure to follow the show, leave a review, and share it with someone who loves history as much as we do. Until next time, I'm Mindy,
And I'm Megan. Stay curious, stay safe, stay kind. Missouri, you bring the mystery.
and we'll bring the mayhem. Peace
Peace
out.
out.